Great. Well, as folks come in, I again want to thank you for joining us. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. We're so excited to welcome you all to our very first international nonprofit Tableau user group, our TUG. This year, Tableau, a Salesforce company, has decided to break out a dedicated team for sales and support of our nonprofit organizations. And for our agenda today, we'll have a welcome and TUG leadership intros. You will hear from our keynote speaker today, Steve Wexler. We'll have small group breakout sessions, which are a great opportunity for you all to connect with your peers from other organizations, as well as meet today's speakers. And we'll close and we'll have a raffle for that's open to everyone who responds to our post-event survey. So please respond to that survey. So why we're all here? It's really about a vision of empowering all nonprofits with data. And our mission is to help nonprofit organizations see and understand your data with visual analytics to further your mission and positively impact society, while helping foster careers, create community, and betterment of individual lives. And our goal is to provide a national or international nonprofit specific community within our data fam. For introductions, I want to introduce you to Adam Michael. Adam is well known to Tableau ambassadors. Currently, he works as an evangelist at Curis, a Tableau partner. And before Curis, Adam worked as a senior data analyst in the public sector space and worked for state government for over 22 years. In 2020, he was Tableau public featured author and earned the Michael Christini Community Leadership Award at Tableau Conference 2020. And I'll pass it on to Adam to introduce yours truly, myself.
Thank you so much. And I was fortunate enough to earn that award again for last conference too with Michelle Freeman. So it was my honor to serve it with her this year too. And thank you for that kind introduction. And this is all about Steve today. Steve is known worldwide for his work with survey data. So it's a super honor for us to be able to share him with you today. I know how essential it is for visualizing survey data for nonprofits, especially government units as well. So Steve Wexler is the founder of Data Revelations, author of The Big Picture, How to Use Data Visualization to Make Better Decisions faster, better decisions faster, and co-author a big book of dashboards, visualizing your data using real-world business scenarios. Steve has worked with ADP, Gallup, Johnson & Johnson, Deloitte, ExxonMobil, Convergys, Consumer Reports, The Economist, SurveyMonkey, and many, many other organizations to help understand and visualize their data. He's a Tableau Hall of Fame Zen Master, which is the biggest honor one can earn with Tableau. And he's the first Iron Viz winner. So when you went to the Tableau conference, seeing the most recent Iron Viz winner, Lisa Trescott, he was the first to do it. So it's really, that's another great tidbit about Steve. And he also serves on the advisory board to the Data Visualization Society. And his presentations and training classes combine an extraordinary level of product mastery with real-world experience gained through developing thousands of visualizations for dozens of clients. Steve has taught thousands of people in both large and small organizations and is known for conducting his seminars with clarity, patience, and humor. So with that, Steve, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for having me here today, and thank you all for joining. I'm going to share my screen, and I had trouble finding this. I got coached by Odell and Adam, but there is a little button that will make the screen take up the full amount of your screen, and I'm going to be showing you how to do stuff here, so you're probably going to want to do that. So give me a moment to share my screen. And with luck, hold on a sec, let me get this queued up properly. You are seeing visualizing survey data using Tableau. And Very briefly, as Adam already put in, I'm the founder, principal, and sole employee of Data Revelations. Yes, I was Tableau's inaugural Iron Viz champion. That was back in 1954. At least it feels a long time ago. I'm a Tableau Zen Master Hall of Famer. Yes, there actually is such a thing. Though if you don't know that, if you're not part of the Tableau community and I hand you a business card and it says Tableau Zen Master on it, you probably think, my God, this guy is a complete tool. Who puts Zen Master on his own business card? In any case, within data visualization, the things I'm most proud of is being one of 3 authors of the Big Book of Dashboards, along with Andy Cutgreave, who's Chief Technical Evangelist at Tableau, and fellow tool and Hall of Famer Jeffrey Schaefer, and most recently, the author of The Big Picture. Pretty excited about this. It's gotten some nice buzz. But while I'm maybe most proud of this, the thing I'm probably best known for within the Tableau community is how to visualize survey data, which makes me wildly popular at cocktail parties, as you can imagine. So let me walk you through a few things and try to jumpstart your efforts to do this. Also, let me do one little thing here, just so that I can see this window over here and see when people are asking questions or stuff like that. There we go. And we're good. So the first thing that I will do if I'm tasked with helping somebody visualize survey data is I'd like to see what the thing looked like out in the wild. What did the survey look like, to people who are taking it? And then I'll map that to the data that gets downloaded from the survey. So here's a typical single punch question, where people can only select one item, radio buttons. So, will you vote in the upcoming election? Yes, no, don't know. Okay, that's what it looked like. How is this thing going to be coded in the data that you get? And it might look like this. Most survey tools that I've seen, things like Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, Survey Gizmo, allow you to download the data in either, and hopefully you're seeing this highlighter here, either the text responses or the encodings as numbers. And I'd love to get them both ways, and I'll articulate why. Maybe if, heaven forbid, you're using something like Google Forms or MS Forms, you're not going to get it 2 ways. You're only going to get it probably as text. So here was what it looked like in the wild. Here's a little data dump of what it might have looked like. And then here's how you might decide that you want to visualize it. Right? What do check all that apply questions look like? Something like this. Please indicate all the things you measure, check all that apply. So they're probably not going to check everything, or maybe you'll have it check the 3 that are most important to you. And this is what I would hope it would look like. That first of all, there's a separate ID for each of those 9 things we asked, and either encoded as yeses and nos, or as zeros or ones, not blanks and ones. The blank here means this person didn't answer the question at all, whomever that respondent is. That's what that would mean. If it's ones and blanks for zeros and ones, you'll have a little bit of extra work that you'll need to do, either inside Tableau or in whatever your preparation tool is. And then, well, how do you visualize something like this? And here is a connected dot plot / gap chart / barbell chart, which is the vertical line is showing the overall responses, and then I have it broken down by different demographics. And we can see, wow, the traditionalists are not measuring blood pressure, but they sure are measuring breathing. And I'll walk you through ways of doing this. Other type of questions that you'll probably be hit with are sentiment questions, Likert scale data. And by the way, it really is pronounced Likert, not Likert. Net promoter score, things like that. Indicate the degree to which you seek the following abilities when making a new hire, or indicate the degree to which you agree or disagree. How important is something to you? Very important, somewhat important, neutral, not very important, not at all important. And so this is how it might look out in the wild. And what does the underlying data look like? Well, you'll probably have a separate ID for each question, or maybe the question name, actual question wording is up there. And then here are how these things are encoded. Well, that's one way, very high degree versus neutral, etc. Or maybe it's coded as 1, 2, 3, 4s, and 5s. And then, well, what are you ultimately going to do with this? Well, you might make something like this. I mean, one of my favorite approaches is a divergent stack bar chart. Really see where the sentiment is. It very favorable? Is it very strongly important, not important, very satisfied, not so satisfied, etc. And here are some works with net promoter score. Also, similarly, the often I'll see a pairing like this. Indicate how important something is to you, and then how satisfied you are with something. And what you want to make sure of, the things that are really important, people are really satisfied. Yeah, you want them to be satisfied with everything, but if you can only put limited resources into some things, probably the things you want to have what's most important to them. All right, I'm going to give you a little preview of reshaping the data. This is probably the single biggest impediment to success with visualizing survey data with Tableau, which is the way you download the data from whatever tool you're getting it from is not the way you want it to be, so that you can have a great time gleaning insights with Tableau. So I'll explain. Here is what we might have started with, and I'm going to show you the actual data. Look at it, and hopefully it's pretty familiar to the stuff that either you're dealing with now or that you will be dealing with. But what we've got here is there's one row per respondent. So, hey, here's respondent number 5 over here. Right there. Female from South America, Generation X, won't get into weighting. And then here is how she answered Q1, Q100, Q2 underscore 1, Q2 underscore 2, etc. And it goes way out over here. That's the way you may have downloaded the data, assuming you downloaded it as text responses versus numeric responses. Well, this is where and it's funny, Tableau uses the term pivot. Other tools might say unpivot. But instead of having really wide data, we're going to want to have the data tall. So for every question that each respondent answered, I'm going to have this repetitive stuff here. That the way I'm going to want to cut the data by gender, generation, location, or whatever is important to you. And then I have question IDs here, and then what the responses are for it. So you're going to end up ballooning the number of rows that your data has, but far fewer columns. And it just means when you want to focus on a certain number of respondents or one respondent and know, hey, what did this person think about such and such? You always know that that person's male, Generation X, or whatever. So it's not very human friendly to look at it this way, but oh, Tableau will be joyful if you get your data set up this way. And that's what I used to do when I was first starting out. And I'd have to do a lot of extra work. I'd have to go, well, what the heck is Q2 underscore 9? What is Q28 underscore sat? And oh gosh, I've got this Likert scale stuff, and this question is about how important stuff is. And maybe I want to know the percentage of people who think things is very important, or the percentage of people who are very satisfied or satisfied. Do I want to have all this conditional text that says if it's very satisfied or very important, gee, I'd really like to have the numeric values, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Just give me the percentage of people who gave this thing a 4 or a 5, so-called top 2 boxes. So that's why I like to have, this is survey nirvana. If you can get your data from the way it was before and get it like this, you're going to fly. And it is not that hard to get the data like this. So in a moment, I'm going to show you where to look and what the blog post is called. But I do want to just kind of walk through what these things look like. Oh, brought up the wrong thing. Sorry about that. And so here is how the data might be downloaded initially. So I've got a respondent ID, a lot of tools put in lots of stuff that, the IP address, when the person started taking the survey, when they ended taking the survey. There are some critical things up here. These are 3 ways that I'm going to cut the data, the so-called demographic questions. You may have other things like education, industry, things like that. This is when you're dealing with weighted surveys where some respondents you're going to weigh more heavily because you want the sample you chose is not an accurate reflection of your population. And then here's how this person answered question 1, question 100, all these things, etc. So here's the data downloaded as text. Here's the data downloaded as numbers. So you see here that I've got these zeros, ones, and twos here. What do they correspond to? And I've got zeros and ones over here. What do they correspond to? And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4s, and 5s. It's really just the same thing. And I've just found sometimes I really like having the text. Sometimes I really like having the numbers. Having them both together really helps out. And then it took a while for me to realize creating something that just explained what everything was insanely helpful. Say, hey, this question ID Q1, here's what the wording was. And it's part of this big grouping, and it's a single punch question. And all these questions over here, when the user saw it, it wasn't, what is your, do you measure Q2_1? No, it was, do you measure pulse rate, metabolism? They all should get grouped together, and they're all multi-punch questions. And just having this little metadata here means you're going to be able to make it much easier to create one visualization that can service a whole lot of questions. So this is the data as you might get it from your survey tool. And I'm sorry. This is what you want it to look like ultimately. And let me just show you a couple of key things on this. One is lots of columns over here, not too many rows. I don't know if you can see that over here, but there's a total of 845 respondents. But if we look at the, hey, we got everything right, one is, there's only a handful of columns here. The rows, almost 25,000, even though we only had 845 respondents. People freak out with something like that. Don't. That means you're going to have a good time with Tableau. So let me just show you where you can find, all right, hopefully you're buying into this and you're, hey, this seems like a pretty decent fellow and he's not going to try to hoodwink me. If you go to datarevelations.com, go to resources, I've got an entire section devoted to visualizing survey data with Tableau. And if you go to this, okay, here's the white paper that I wrote for Tableau on this. It is somewhat dated. I'm hoping by the end of this year I have a new white paper on it. But let me go right here to general survey considerations, getting your survey data just so. What I just explained, I'll walk you through why you should do this. And then, hey, here's how you can get your survey data just so using Tableau Prep, using well, this is really dated. There are a bunch of other tools besides Tableau Prep. One that may do the trick for you, if you don't get Tableau Prep for free and you have to pay for it, is a wonderful tool called EasyMorph, and they have a free edition which may allow you to do everything that you need to get your survey data just so. And of course, there's also Alteryx. Some of the fancier survey data tools also have web connectors that you can purchase. They don't make them free. And what I've seen of them is, my apologies if they have since improved them. I think they are overpriced and undervalued. So here's a whole bunch of stuff, but probably the one is getting your survey data just so. And let me walk you through some of the things that we can do once the data is just so. So here I am in Tableau. I'm going to connect to the data, and I don't want this version. I want the version that's been reshaped, the one that is um, uh, narrow and tall. So let me connect to that data. Some Excel data. You see presentations, sorry. I go to the source data and I want to go to the, by the way, the easiest way to do this is just have someone give you the data in the right format. I have worked in organizations where I've been able to do that. It's rare. And yeah, this is everything. It's already been set up the way I want. I'll create an extract. Yeah, I tested this yesterday. That's why I'm getting the do you want to replace the extract? And well, this certainly doesn't look very intimidating right now. One of the first things I'll do is I'll want to know, well, how many people took the survey? And if I bring this count in, I'm going to get this very misleading 24,931. It's like, well, that many people didn't take it. Oh, that's because we are repeating people over and over again. So this is a case where I might put on columns, and I right drag this so that instead of it putting respondent ID, I can override that and put count D respondent ID. Oop, didn't do it right, sorry. Right drag, count D respondent ID, and I can see, hey, 845. If I want to see, gee, I'd like to see the breakdown by men versus women, I can do this. Or if I want to see it by generation, etc., I can do this. But now let's get into really the fun of this, which is just to see all the types of questions. I've got a benchmarking question. I've got Likert questions, multi-punch and single punch questions. Maybe I just want to do the multi-punch questions. And now I'll put the question grouping in here, and it knows, oh, there's just one set of questions that will handle this. What do you measure? So, yep, I want to look at that. And I'll put question wording up here. And now I'd like to see, all right, how many people indicated that they measure adrenaline production? How many people indicate that they measure blood pressure? Well, remember, they either put in a 0 or a 1. So what I want to do is add up all the people that selected a 1 and then divide by everybody who answered questions. And I'm going to do something that I miss this field so much. It's called number of records. And I am not using Tableau's relationship feature. All this does is it's going to put a 1 in every single row. You don't have to do this, but I've got 40 blog posts that refer to a field that Tableau used to have before 2020.2 called number of records. And I just find it comforting to have this field with me. In any case, having now done that, we don't have to. We can also use this count of that's in here. I'm going to create a calculated field, and I'm going to call it percent check all that apply. And I'm just going to take the sum of the values that we have. Remember, we have a field with values, and they either have zeros or ones. I'll make this a little larger so you can see, and divide by some number of records. What is that doing? Hey, first person, did you measure adrenaline production? You did? All right, I'm going to count you. Hey, second person, did you measure adrenaline production? You didn't? All right, so that's a 1 plus a 0. Adds up all the ones, divides by, well, there's a 1 in every row, and This is going to give me percent all that apply. Well, let me right click this. Let me change the default properties to number format, 0 decimal places. Really, if you have decimal places in your survey data, I'd like to talk to you, because when you're doing a survey, you're sampling a population. It's a sample. It means there's going to be a margin of error. It means you're going to be plus or minus 2, 3, 4, 5 percentage points. No way you can say 72.8% or something like that on a sample. So 0 decimal places. Let me put this up here. Let me sort this in descending order. Chart a little narrower. Maybe turn this on, and hey, got the answer to our question. 77% of respondents, plus or minus whatever, measure adrenaline production, but only 20% measure pupil dilation. Well, suppose I'd like to see this broken down by generation or location. Well, I could put generation over here, and it's kind of that's pretty interesting here. Big difference between the baby boomers and the traditionalists. But let me show you a better way to do this. Well, first of all, let me do this, which is call this check all that apply. There we go. And now let me duplicate this. Can't tell you how many times I've have something that's working. I decide, oh, let me futz with it. Go, oh crap, I just spent 10 minutes and what I had 10 minutes ago was better, and now I'm doing 10 minutes worth of undoing. And instead, hey, this is good. Now let me try something else here. And I'm going to change this chart to be a circle chart. Let me get rid of the not display the values there. Let me put generation on color. And how can we make this less scary looking? Well, I'm going to show you how to create a dumbbell or barbell chart, or it's technically called the connected dot plot. Let me duplicate this. So this first pill I have as a circle. The second pill I have, I'm going to make it a line. Whoops, look at that. That's because it thinks I want to connect the line. I want to connect the line, draw a line along the generation. So we'll connect the traditionalists to the baby boomers to whatever. Let me make this a dual axes chart. Let me synchronize the axes. Jeff prefers that I just swap the left pill and the right pill. I prefer just moving these marks to the back. For the line chart, make the size of this a little larger. Let me make the circle chart the size smaller. Too much. And let me maybe make the color of the line lighter gray. And we're starting to get something which is okay. Maybe make it a little bit larger. And that's not bad. And maybe we can do some stuff like on label. I'll only show the mark labels when they're highlighted. Let's see if that works. So now if I click millennials, oh, I can see what the choices are there for Generation X, for baby boomers, etc. Let me show you what a completed version of this thing might look like. Though, this is not bad. Oh, we'll show you one other thing. Let's say that I don't break this down by generation. That looks kind of cool. Might be nice to have the overall. Well, a little pressed for time. Let me show you what a completed version might look like with this. Hold on a sec. Check all gap dashboard. There we go. And what I've got here is the similar breakdown that we had before. The vertical line is the overall. So if I break this down by none, get the same thing. And I've got this parameter. I can break it down by by gender, by generation, or by location. And the little dots here are just indicating, hey, you don't have a whole lot of respondents here. And the margin of error may be really large on this thing. So I'll point something I just published this week, as I think it's pretty useful as we get, oh, it's maybe a little bit complicated. Just a source. But it's one of the reasons I just so adore the Tableau community. So earlier this year, I published a post about showing percent top two boxes, percent bottom two boxes. That's a really popular way to show stuff with Likert data. It's the percentage of people that are enthusiastic about something, the fours or the fives, or if you have 7-point Likert, the sixes and the sevens. And a couple of people said, hey, Steve, one is you're not showing margin of error. And two, maybe there's a better way to show this. And a colleague from Romania, his name is Daniel Zvinka, suggested something like this vertical line, and each of these circles, you're showing how much they're either pulling one way or the other by generation. And then he started really trying to show, hey, how can we show the margin of error with these things? And I really liked his designs. I then narrowed it down to two approaches, and I kind of polled the Twitterverse and newsletter followers and said, hey, do you like this one or this one? And I kind of walk you through how the thing is built. But this is not the check all that apply question. It's a Likert scale question. How satisfied are you with stuff? And it's the percentage of people who are giving fours or fives. And I'm trying to show the margin of error here. So here it is without the margin of error, and the vertical line is overall. And then, hey, let me see the margin of error based on confidence interval of 90%, meaning, hey, 90% of the time of the samples that you make, the true value will be with somewhere between the lower and the higher end. Hopefully, what we're looking at now is one of those 90 out of 100 samples that we've taken. If we want 95%, I can do that. And notice that the error bars, the error margin increases. In any case, this all came about with just kind of jamming with the community and then presenting ideas on what could be a better way to do this. All of this can be found at Data Revelations on visualizing survey data. I will tell you also, so lots of free stuff, and you can probably do a lot of this. I am about to plug an online course, but the white paper is available from visualizing survey data and all these blog posts that can walk you through how to do stuff. But I was encouraged to do this. I hadn't offered this class for a couple of years. And then people said, hey, you know that class you used to offer on visualizing survey data, could you offer it again? And I have built an on-demand course. And back when I was doing this, when people would take it synchronously with me, I was charging $595 for it, or $495 for a nonprofit. You can now take it anytime you want for $99. And that is the price through the end of the year. So if you're saying, hey, we're a not-for-profit, can we take it for less? Yes, come January, when I raise it to $199, yeah, there'll be a 20% discount or something like that for non-for-profit. So if you think this might be worthwhile, probably makes sense to enroll now, and you have access to this for a year. But if even that is too dear, just go to resources, visualizing survey data, and there's a lot of free stuff that will hopefully get you get started. So with that, I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen and happy to open this up to Q&A and whatever folks would like to discuss.
Yeah, so please ask Steve questions in the chat or Q&A. I love this presentation. I love all the free resources you share with people as well. And given your course, and you could explain a little bit how much time and you put into it as far as what's available with that.
With the resources or whatever, there's something like 50 blog posts. This stuff
Right.
goes back 10 and a half years ago or something like that. There were more than that. Some things are, well, that thing didn't age very well, so I kind of removed it. The course, it took a while to develop. Let's put it that way. And I had been offering it from like 2015 through 2019. Then a lot of people said, "Hey, can you do this again?" And it I kind of figured making an on-demand course would be painful because there's a big learning curve and adding all that stuff to the website and things like that. And it was, but I'm very happy that I've done it now. So I'm I, I I don't think you will find a better or faster way to get up to speed with this stuff, with visualizing survey data with Tableau. But that said, maybe you don't need the course, and there's a lot of content here that you can try on your own.
And I loved how you showed the background and showing how the data should be formatted to. That's a huge thing for a lot of people that they get stuck on, especially when they're bringing it into Tableau. So it's super helpful. What's another tip that for visualizing survey data that you didn't share in the presentation that may be a big uh, helpful response to a potential pain point? Because I know there's a ton of pain points with survey data. People complain about it all the time, but you made it look so easy.
Well, the so let me first show you that the oh man, you mean I got to get the stuff as text? I've got to get it as numbers. I've got to do all this other stuff. Let me show you the bare minimum to get started. And go, hey, that's really not too scary. So let me connect to a new data source here, whatever. And I am going to just connect to the non-reshaped one. You're crazy, Steve. Don't do that. And I'll just bring in the data as text. And then I will just take all these fields here.
While you're
Oh,
looking
and
that up,
and and,
somebody has
and how about if I share? How about if I share the screen rather than you listening to me do this? Um,
That's fine. I just want to share a comment with you. Somebody mentioned that they love your Big Book of Dashboards book, and they picked it up at the Tableau conference in 2017. And also wanted to thank you for showing going over long versus wide data, and find that that's a big struggling point with their reports. I completely agree. Once you learn how to do that, it's so much easier to visualize.
so here is, I just connected to the data. It's wide. Yeah, I realize I got my data as as labels, as numbers, that I'm not getting any of that stuff. All right. I've just got whatever it is. I downloaded the data, however I got it, and what do I need to do? Well, you're going to need to leave respondent ID in any way that you want to cut the data intact. And then you're going to go from this field through here, pivot the data. Whoa, I didn't have to use Tableau prep or anything. And I'll call this the question ID, call this text responses. Let me make an extract of it. Let me go to a new sheet. And here we go. And hey, so let me see what I have here. Hey, I'd like to visualize some questions. Oh, shoot. What questions do I want to visualize? So, maybe Q1. and then let me see what the responses are. Oh, yes, no, don't know, and there are some nulls. So I didn't do any prep. All I did was I took something that was wide and I made it um, tall. The joy of if you use a data set that has all the added things to it, it means, gee, I don't need to know what, all the question IDs are. And it took me a while to realize that a really helpful thing is if you group these things, you look at what is my total inventory of stuff, my question type, my question grouping, my dog who's whining, let me look at the question wording.
Common survey questions.
So then let me look at, I'm going to get rid of the benchmarking question for now because there's just going to be, that's like, what's your salary? And there's like a zillion things in there. And then let me see what my responses were. So I'm going to look at this thing as the label responses, important, not important. And, let me do a trick here. Let me duplicate this, bring it up here. Value is discrete as opposed to continuous. Put this over here. So now I've got so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my importance questions, and indicate the degree to which you agree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my agreement questions, and I can see how they map. But let me show the filter, and let me just look at my multi-punch questions. And just having this huge, here's how everything that you've got and every mapping, and discovering, oh, I got something that isn't coded right. I guess somebody typed in something manually. And instead of having yeses and nos, I have yeses, nos, and someone who's a Monty Python fan, me's. So that is, my blog post is the second thing you should do when visualizing survey data. The first part is getting things just right, and I make a demographics dashboard. The second thing is this thing that allows you to take a full inventory. And in fact, you could also just drag number of records up here and get some sense of what the response count is. And just see, let me see all my questions, all the possible responses that I have, and get a sense of, well, what do I have that I'm going to be visualizing? And I find that just insanely useful to do. So you'll find that in the resources, and you'll certainly find it if you take the online course, but it's hey, here's the second thing I recommend you do.
We had a funny comment in the chat. So next I'll be asking for shrubberies.
Yeah, yes, very good. Very good. Yes.
But yeah, thank you for going over that quick demo and dashboard build. That's super helpful. As far as anything else, we do have. It doesn't look like we have additional questions in the chat. So maybe if you want to ask Steve, we could do it in our breakout session in Remo. So if you want to sit down and talk with us and go over some things that you learned today, that would be awesome. Talk about Tableau conference, talk about Steve's books, his blog post. That'd be great. And again, remember with the raffle, we're going to send out survey after this presentation. So just make sure that you complete that and return it, and then we'll use the raffle from that and select winners based on the responses to the survey. And I thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Adam, see, we do have one other question for considerations or insights around best practice with Tableau prep or something like Alteryx.
What's the
Yeah, how do you decide which data shaping software approach to use?
Well, for me, a lot of it is what tool is readily available we have and what costs the least. If these are not for profits, either you're going to be begging Alteryx, for low cost licenses, either your Tableau arrangement is such that you get Tableau Prep for free. And if that's not the case, and if Tableau Prep is too expensive, maybe something like Easy Morph. All three can do a kick-ass job of getting your data the way that you need it to be without, oh man, it's the learning curve on this thing is going to be, the learning curve is ridiculously gentle on here's what you got and here's what you need it to be. In an hour, you'll be up and running with this stuff. And it's really not very hard.
And Prep does come free with creator licenses, so you should be able to access Prep for free with creator license. And another great thing about Prep is if you don't have a Tableau license, you can get it for 2 weeks every single release for absolutely free. So to test it out and see if that's a tool for you, or you can go old school and go with Excel.
There probably still is the Tableau add-in that I used for years for reshaping the data and showing how to marry the things together. But my hope is one of those three tools is something that you'll be able to get without it hurting your pocketbook.
And they're also enhancing tools within the web environment as well. So you'll be able to do more stuff prep wise within the web arsenal as well. So consider that for future too. So there's a lot of cool things you could do with it. And it was just a great example. Steve showed that all you had to do in this particular case, and this happens with a lot of survey data, you just have to throw pivot on it and in the data pane.
I'm everything I want to do, I could have done with just that simple pivot. It just would have been a lot more conditional statements. Oh, if it says very satisfied or satisfied, and then you have to go, oh, but if it says very important or important, versus, oh, but I'd like to have the numbers. If it's greater than or equal to 4, isn't that what I want? Yeah, but then what does a 4 mean? Oh, if it's this question, it means important. If it's this question, it means satisfied. If it's this question, that's why you want to have both the text and the numeric things playing nicely together in the sandbox.
So I think that covers it. So if we want to jump right into Remo, again, we're so honored that you came and spoke with us, Steve, and we loved your presentation. I loved a little ad hoc dashboarding in the background right after the presentation. So thanks for doing that as well. It was just a pleasure to see that.
Well, my pleasure and my goal is that people are able to take their own data and their own survey data and glean insight from it relatively painlessly. So hopefully the resources here and that are at Data Revelations will help people do that.
Thank you so much. And let's pop into our Remo breakout session.